Hey, all you literary legends luminaries. I'm Julie, and welcome to another episode of Booksmart. Like last week, we are revisiting an author I've reviewed already. It's John Green's Everything is Tuberculosis, The History and Persistence of Our Deadliest Infection. I adored John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed, and that was my very first episode of Booksmart, and I enjoy his crash course literature courses. He's funny and witty and doesn't water down information. I appreciate that. And he's not from New York, so that makes me even happier. John Green is my age, so we're of the same generation and we share some similar traits. We tend to be a bit panicky and our brains have a tendency to spiral at just the slightest mention of something we might find life-threatening, although it probably isn't. His writing about illness in the Anthropocene Reviewed made me giggle since I could relate to his overreaction, so I thought Everything is Tuberculosis would have that same sort of flair. It did, but it didn't, if that makes sense. The book covers tuberculosis in an everything way, but not quite as everything as I thought John Green would do. TB, the short way of saying tuberculosis, is the deadliest infectious disease, yet the media doesn't address TB with much seriousness. COVID replaced it during the pandemic, but in 2023, TB took the top spot again. When was the last time we heard about TB, unless you're in an English class and learning about Elizabeth Barrett Browning or Kafka or Orwell, and definitely Poe, the times when TB was called consumption. Here's how John Green summarizes this conundrum we have of TB, and I'm just going to read some short lines scattered throughout his first chapter so you kind of get an idea of where he's headed. We are powerful enough to light the world at night, to artificially refrigerate food, to leave Earth's atmosphere and orbit it from outer space, but we cannot save those we love from suffering. This is the story of human history as I understand it, the story of an organism that can do so much, but cannot do what it most wants. We know how to live in a world without tuberculosis, but we choose not to live in that world. This year, thousands of doctors will attend to millions of TB patients, and just as my great-grandfather could not have saved his son, these physicians will be unable to save their patients, because the cure is where the disease is not, and the disease is where the cure is not. For me, at least, the history and present of tuberculosis reveal the folly and brilliance and cruelty and compassion of humans. That's a lot. It's the everything, right? Green's writing sometimes reminds me of F. Scott Fitzgerald's, the way he says so much in so little space, yet does so beautifully. And he has more of a sense of humor, I think, than Fitzgerald. Anyway, Green pulls you in right away, connecting TB to the likes of the invention of the cowboy hat, the statehood of New Mexico, and World War I. I love when he does this. I wish he would have done more of this throughout the book. But yes, TB has World War I connections, although it didn't cause the war. But still, it's fascinating when you look at all the details because that's really what history is. We've summarized historical events and streamlined them to fit into an exact space in our history textbooks. But there's always so much more happening. And it's that so much more that Green has written about regarding TB. Green writes about the stigma of TB and compares it to his father's fight with cancer. My mother died of lung cancer, and yes, she was a heavy smoker, but I remember when she was waiting for a chemo chair to open up and was looking at all the pins of the cancer awareness one can advertise on their lapel or blouse. There wasn't one for lung cancer. And my mom summed it up when she said this: I guess people with lung cancer must deserve it. It broke my heart when she said that. So here's how Green connects this society attitude of, well, you deserve your illness, and how it directly connects to TB. People who are treated as less than fully human by the social order are more susceptible to tuberculosis. But it's not because of their moral codes or choices or genetics. It's because they are treated as less than fully human by the social order. In addition to living with the physical and psychological challenges of illness, there is the additional challenge of having one's humanity discounted. Oh, that is so beautifully written. Green really focuses on the humanity side of the disease. Henry, a boy Green meets in Sierra Leone, is one way that Green captures this humanity. Henry is actually a young adult, not a boy, but he's been so sick with TB for so long that his growth has been affected. Green weaves in Henry's story throughout the book. What I wish Green would have done more of was tell his own story. Green admits that he has a weak constitution for most things and became deathly ill at the end of their trip. His title is perfect because Green brings up everything and how such everythings have a tuberculosis connection. Fashion, for one, who would have thought? Hemlines got shorter because women feared all the dirt and grime their dresses were dragging around. Beards went away due to the filthy nature of facial hair, which was a trend replicated during COVID, if you remember. But you'll also learn about facets of the disease itself. I had no idea the hunger involved with TB. I knew why it was called consumption, but I had no idea the stage of the illness for some people that can result in an insatiable hunger. Green doesn't overwhelm the reader with a ton of scientific or medical information. That's one of Green's writing superpowers, if you ask me. He has a way of integrating just the right amount of information written in a perfect way to give readers what they need for understanding, yet to illustrate his purpose at the same time. If you want to learn more about TB, Green even tells you where to find more information and to read about it yourself. Green presents yet another aspect of treating diseases that I never thought of: control. If we can control aspects of our lives, then we can keep ourselves healthy, right? And this happens with the treatments as well. And many of us truly believe we can do this with what we do to our bodies and the treatments that we put them through. So let me read you this regarding the treatment of TB. This speaks so much to me about the psychosocial components of living with tuberculosis. Patients were told that good moral and physical hygiene could save them. The disease was framed, as disease so often has been, as a moral quandary. If you don't wear high heels and you don't live unnaturally in a city and you don't drink and you don't cry at night when you're 4 years old and miss your mother, then you will survive. But patients like Gail knew this was a lie. They knew it because they saw their friends die. That discordance makes it even more difficult to keep a positive attitude, which was enshrined as a treatment strategy for TB, just as it is now enshrined as a treatment strategy for diseases that are sometimes survivable but often aren't, like cancer. How true is that? He then goes on to describe the control of sanitarium life, which also reminds me of the yellow wallpaper and the rest cure. All that control and all that is taken away from the patient, which ultimately only made matters worse for Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Green focuses on the socioeconomical aspect of tuberculosis. I think in general, we as a society understand the wealthy have the means to stay healthy and the means to get better should they get sick, but those who live in poverty do not. That diseases spread like wildfire, diseases that have little effect in the developed world. That the main reason TB doesn't get the attention it does is because it doesn't affect the rich. But Green uses an example that has happened to him, something that's happened to many of us that we take for granted. And it's this beautiful short little story that I think is incredibly relatable to so many of us. I often think of these interdependent systems in the context of my own healthcare. Not long ago, I was walking in the backyard staring up at the night sky when I happened to step on a nail that went right through my shoe and an inch into my foot. The next morning, I drove on a good road to a clinic a few minutes from my house where I received a booster shot to eliminate the already small chance that my mishap with the nail might result in tetanus. But in order for this minor medical intervention to occur, so many systems had to work in my favor. I needed healthcare access, of course. In my case, a health insurance program that pays for basic preventative care like vaccines. I needed to live in a community with 24-hour electricity so that the tetanus shot could remain cold and not lose its efficacy. I needed a system that could efficiently and reliably transport not just the shot itself, but also the gloves worn by the nurse who did my injection. I needed to live in a community with an education system strong enough to train nurses and doctors. Ultimately, what I needed was not just a tetanus shot, but an entire set of robust systems to work perfectly in concert with each other, a phenomenon that ought not be a luxury in our world of abundance, and yet still somehow is. I'm not sure we fully understand how dependent we are on such medical treatments and systems, nor do we understand that many parts of the world don't have access to such basic treatment for so many different reasons. This is perhaps Green's main point as he writes about TB. Even though tuberculosis is not funny at all, I was hoping for a bit more Green's humor throughout the book. There's a little bit in there, but not as much as I was hoping. For someone like me who doesn't want to get bogged down into too much medical jargon, Everything is Tuberculosis gave me the right amount of information about the illness, just enough not to make me worry that I may or may not have contracted it. I'm one of those people that should never go on WebMD because I rapidly develop symptoms of whatever it is I think I have, and then it's difficult to know if I really have those symptoms or if it's just psychosomatic. Most of the time it's psychosomatic. Green tackles a complicated topic like TB and makes it easy to read and so purposeful to his readers. That's his writing gift, in my opinion. If you're wanting in-depth TB information, Everything is Tuberculosis is not going to be the book you're going to find all that information. However, if you're wanting to know more about the disease other than the disease, you'll get many aspects. First and foremost, the humanity side of TB and our societal construct of diseases and their cures. I'm going to end this episode of Booksmart with this passage that will hopefully make you think about the significance of TB in our world that is divided by the haves and the have-nots. And it might just leave you with some food for thought. Tuberculosis is so often and in so many ways a disease of vicious cycles. It's an illness of poverty that worsens poverty. It's an illness that worsens other illnesses, from HIV to diabetes. It's an illness of weak healthcare systems that weakens healthcare systems. It's an illness of malnutrition that worsens malnutrition. And it's an illness of the stigmatized that worsens stigmatization. In the face of all this, it's easy to despair. TB doesn't just flow through the meandering river of injustice. TB broadens and deepens that river. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Booksmart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.